It's Friday, October 24th. It's 9 a.m. I'm Jim Czek with Ian Burns, and it's just a few days after my birthday, 6 of them actually. So we might as well use a marker of some kind, and we're going to find some joy somewhere. But another day. Trump kills trade talks with Canada. That's kind of be the theme of the show. But Carney and Ford respond, and Carney wants to bet on the Jays. Another Carney tout turns out to be false. The Great Canadian Auto Wreck. Poilievre responds to the budget. Sean Fraser's bill does not go far enough. Another day, another cabinet mess. Who's going to clean these up? Alberta announces Bill 1. BC First Nations sues Ottawa on LNG. And trucking safety needs to be taken seriously. More BC healthcare mass resignations. BC politics is a mess. We can make that statement. We can just say that. We can put an exclamation mark right in behind that, I think. All that and a lot more. And right at the end, we got Elizabeth May. She's going to make a statement on saving the world. Hang around for that. It's going to be unbelievable. But let's kick things off with the news that dropped late yesterday. I guess, Trump talked about that ad the other day, and he said it was kind of like, he said, oh, I would do that ad, And then all of a sudden the Reagan Foundation responded, and all of a sudden, I don't know if somebody talked to him and said, no, we don't like that. So Trump now says all trade talks are paused because of this fraudulent Reagan ad that uses Reagan's voice, and I guess they used just a bit of it, but it's caused quite the stir in Canada. You did a story this morning on it.
I'm not convinced even a little bit that this has anything at all to do with this ad or really with Ronald Reagan or anything like that. I think this is a complete distraction.
I agree.
Because as you point out, he saw it earlier. He saw it last week, I think.
Then he laughed.
And then discussed it on Tuesday.
Yeah.
And he commended it almost. He complimented it. He praised it. He said it was like, yeah, I'd do that. I'd do that as well if I was in Canada's position. Ontario's position, but he said Canada. He's insisting on pretending that this is Canada rather than just Ontario. But yeah, I'm not convinced that this has anything to do with that. And that it's not just that. It's also just all you've got to do is it's going to take 6 minutes of your life to watch the ad that they put out, and then the whole clip from Ronald Reagan. Just do that. Watch them, and see if you come away with that thinking that you've been manipulated, or that the Ontario ad is somehow fraudulent or whatever else they said, that it's misleading or misrepresents Ronald Reagan. It doesn't. It's completely fair. And this is kind of our business in journalism. We do often you have to watch a speech and shorten it and try and get the whole thrust of the speech, what was said, what was intended, and present that. And they did a perfectly fine job. It is absolutely accurate. It's completely accurate. They messed about with the order a little bit. So they kind of took a sentence from minute 4 and then
they changed it for sure.
Put it sort of before minute 1 or something. Yeah, but it doesn't change the meaning at all. And it also doesn't change the fact. Ronald Reagan's been dead 20 years now? He was born 100 years ago, something like that. He was president 40 years ago, 50 years ago, quite a number of decades ago. We have the records. We have a decent idea of who Ronald Reagan was and what he stood for. And don't take my word for it. Just go and consult the histories. Go and look at some historian of Ronald Reagan's presidency, and you'll find that he's almost ubiquitously considered to be very much in favor of free trade, which is what he says in this speech as well. It's obvious. So Trump is it's bollocks. It's as usual, it's squid ink. It's about something else. But now he's got everybody, including us, talking about Ronald Reagan, which is a waste of time. This is not about Ronald Reagan. This is about the trade deal and the negotiations and whatever's going on behind the scenes, and Trump's desire to just flip the table and say, I'm the boss. Don't forget that. And I guess, he's achieved that.
I mean, there's quite a few people out on the internet saying that this is Mark Carney ramping up Orange Man bad again because he doesn't think his budget's going to pass. He's going to be an election, and you got to ramp up the anti-America or anti-Trump rhetoric again and get everybody to kind of rally together, which is what you're kind of getting in Canada. A lot of the media outlets actually going off on this, but there is a response there from the Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation as well, and said they're reviewing legal options. And like, I mean, in fair use,
That's nonsense.
in fair use, it probably doesn't have much of a leg to stand on it.
It's public domain. Yeah, a complete nonsense. I cannot believe somebody typed those words. I can't believe that they would attach such nonsense to their names. It's what foolishness that is.
But on the other side of that, though, Doug Ford, he's been the agitator. But is he agitating with Carney's blessing? Because they hang out a lot. They hang out at each other's house. So you wouldn't think that Doug Ford would go off on his own, because you see Mark Carney now playing. You know, he's kind of like, even we're going to see some reactions here. He's still playing, oh no, we got to be calm. We got to do this. We got to do that. And there's Doug Ford pouring the whiskey out on the ground and, like saying all these things, cutting off energy. And then here's his reaction to Trump's reaction.
This is not a video. He just posted the video.
I'm sure he wasn't too happy, but it's real because it was coming from the best president the country's ever seen, Ronald Reagan. So it is. It's very effective. It's probably one of the best ads I've ever seen, and it's coming from Ronald Reagan's voice, and it's going to be focused on right across the country, but also in Republican-held areas, because what I feel, the Reagan Republicans are going to be fighting with a MAGA group, and let's hope Reagan Republicans.
The part I don't get is, like, there is no fighting with the MAGA and the Reagan Republicans. Like, I mean, you can look at the Democrats falling apart in the United States. Doug Ford thinks he's going to drive a wedge. You just have to wonder why he's doing what he's doing, because, again, they have more cards than we have. We need them more than they need us. And it seems unnecessary to do these things, which puts people's jobs at risk. And we're seeing more and more jobs go. And this doesn't help. This does not help, Doug. Stand down, buddy.
Well, he posted, to his credit, the tweet that I thought we were going to talk about. In his tweet there, he just posted the video of the full Ronald Reagan speech, not of the ad, but of the full speech, just to prove his point, which is that the ad is accurate.
It doesn't.
But as for what you said earlier,
though, right? Like the sticking the stick in doesn't help.
Well, that's an argument that can certainly be made, but I mean, it's provoked a reaction, and I suppose Ford seems to want that. He also got a reaction when he threatened to put a surcharge on electricity, didn't he? Whether it's a good reaction, I don't know, but he's good at getting reactions, Doug Ford. But I would say what you said there about MAGA and the Reaganites, and you saying that there's no conflict. There very much is a conflict, huge conflict.
I don't know. I'm not buying it, but hey.
When Trump dies or when Trump leaves office, that will resurface, and that is something that the MAGA people constantly talk about. They are extremely scared of a resurgence of the old Republican Party. And that's why, I don't know if we can get his Truth Social back, what he tweeted, but I mean, Donald Trump here, what he said, he's trying to change history. He's trying to manipulate reality to suit the present. He wants his adoring followers, many of whom will obey him, he wants them to believe that Ronald Reagan was pro-tariff. Completely false. He used them now and then, but he was a free trader. He was one of those people who remembered the Great Depression and spoke about the Great Depression and the Smoot-Hawley tariffs, which are generally considered by economists to have made the Great Depression the crisis that it became because tariffs were put in place. That's who Ronald Reagan was. He was a massive free trader, but because this argument is going on within the Republican Party, Trump has obviously thought it's a good idea to try and rewrite history. I mean, this is such a cliche, but it's very much like 1984, the constantly quoted novel by George Orwell, where the task of Winston Smith, the main character in 1984, is to change history based on the latest statements made by the leader. And it's kind of like that. It's really, he's literally trying to pretend that Ronald Reagan was somebody that he wasn't. And
here's the main point, though. It doesn't help us, whether we're right or wrong on this. It doesn't help us. We need a trade deal with the Americans. We need a trade deal.
We don't know that. That's the guy.
We don't need a trade deal?
No, we don't know that this is not helping us. Like I said, this is BS.
Doesn't seem to be helping.
This is bollocks. Donald Trump is not upset about this ad. We know that because on Tuesday, he said he's not upset about it. It's not about the ad. So I don't think this is like, I don't think it's as simple as saying Doug Ford's a moron, look what he's done, Mark Carney's an idiot, he's a failure. This is something else going on that either we don't know about it because it's something to do with I mean, he alluded to dairy management. Maybe that's a hint. There's something going on behind the scenes that they're talking about. But this has less than nothing to do with this ad. I'm convinced of that. Donald Trump, when he decides to get angry about something, he doesn't leave a trail of evidence 2 days or 3 days earlier. But he's left it in this case. He's not bothered about this ad. He doesn't care about it. He's just used it as a tool so that he can flip the table. But it's about something else.
Is Doug Ford, though, just this uncontrolled attack dog or does Carney actually have control of him and he's actually egging him on to do these things? So he's done this several times now, outside of what everybody else is doing. Because like if Scott Moe did this to China right now, there'd be a huge uproar if Scott Moe was throwing daggers into President Xi's face like that.
I suppose so. Yeah, actually, that's quite an interesting comparison.
Let's listen to Mark Carney's reaction as he gets on the plane to, and he's going to talk a little bit about this.
Look, for months we have stressed the importance of distinguishing things we can control and things we can't control. We can't control the trade policy of the United States. We recognize that policy has fundamentally changed from the policy in the 1980s, 1990s, 2000s. And it's a situation where the United States has tariffs against every one of their trading partners to different degrees. And it's in that context that our officials, my colleagues, have been working with their American colleagues on detailed, constructive negotiations, discussions on specific transactions, specific sectors, steel, aluminum, and energy. And a lot of progress has been made. And we stand ready to pick up on that progress and build on that progress when the Americans are ready to have those discussions, because it will be for the benefit of workers in the United States, workers in Canada, and families in both of our countries. Now, what we can control, absolutely, is how we build here at home, and that's the focus of Budget 2025, generational investment here in Canada. And what we can also control, or at least heavily influence, is developing new partnerships and opportunities, including with the economic giants of Asia, which is the focus.
I don't know where we got that headline from there, but in our YouTube video.
We're trying to change that. I mean, it's like a ghost in the machine. That is not.
We didn't do it.
That's not our headline. That's not what. It doesn't represent reality. We're going to change it right now.
The headline should be "Trump kills trade talks with Canada." I'm not sure where that came from. Anyway. But also, Carney says that he asked Trump to bet on the Blue Jays game, and he said Trump's afraid to make the bet because he doesn't like losing. So this is here's the contradictions, right? 1 minute, like Trump cuts off trade talks, and then here's they were talking about betting. Like, what is going on? What is really going on?
Well, that just shows Carney didn't smell this in the wind, because this was just like flirtation, wasn't it? This was an attempt to be like
buddy,
we're best buddies, and like, oh, come on there with the Blue Jays, you don't dare bet on me, do you? And then the next minute, Trump's like in a completely different mood. Of all the things that you can put on Mark Carney, I suppose this could be a fair criticism, that he just completely misjudged what was going on with Donald Trump, and he was just giggling about it. He was laughing. He said, "I sent him a text and he hasn't replied." In retrospect, we know why he hasn't replied, because he had this planned. But yeah, it suggests, doesn't it, that Mark Carney and his team are just like, they don't have their ear to the ground. They've been completely bamboozled by this, completely surprised by it.
Another Carney tout, though, is discredited. Here we have in the committee hearing here, let's listen in, as Carney has been touting that Canada has the best trade deal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you to our witnesses for appearing. Mr. Meltzer, my first questions will be to you. We've heard a lot from our government that despite punishing sectoral tariffs on steel, autos, aluminum, that regardless of those, we in Canada have the best deal with the United States right now. But according to your analysis, which I read, you indicated that according to your review, Canada faces a trade-weighted average tariff of about 9.8%. But at the same time, Mexico's trade-weighted average tariff is about 5.2%. So is it correct, according to your analysis, that Canada actually has currently a worse deal than our primary other partner in North America, that is Mexico?
Yes, more or less. I mean, we've seen these developments recently where tariffs on Canada went up and they didn't on Mexico from 25% to 35%. So that's been one of the kind of implications there. Some of the Section 232 tariffs have hit Canada more than Mexico. I will say that going forward, when you look at the 232 tariffs that are kind of underway, the large truck tariff, the tariffs on pharmaceuticals, semiconductors and so forth, the assessments are that these tariffs are going to hit upwards of 40, if not close to 50% of Mexico trade with the US. So I think that will change, but I think we saw that shift underway because Canada got hit with a higher, effectively IEPA 35% tariff than Mexico.
Thank you.
So there you go. There was another Carney tout that we have the best deal. Turns out we don't.
Well, I guess they could argue second best deal then. All right. Although the US does have a free trade deal with some other countries like Israel. Not many people know that, actually. I think they had that deal even before we had the deal, the Israel-US free trade deal. But I don't think it's quite as comprehensive as CUSMA.
There's some surprises possibly coming in the budget to do with pension funds. There's been a little bit of talk about pensions, and maybe some of the older, more wealthy pensioners maybe don't deserve to get their pension. Let's listen into this here.
The Prime Minister, Mark Carney, is pushing pension funds across Canada to invest more money domestically. And that's something former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau attempted to do as well, though it yielded little results. So why does Prime Minister Carney think that this time will be different?
Because I think we need some sort of stimulus here in Canada to ignite growth. And so right now, Canada's biggest pension plans can invest about 30% to a limit of 30% domestically. What he'd like to do, and this is big business, I'm talking $3 trillion, to raise that limit so that about $500 billion could be crowded back into Canada. And that could ignite growth, help industries, infrastructure, that sort of thing. If you're a pensioner, what it could mean to you is your money's doing double duty. It's helping fund your retirement, but also ignite growth in Canada. But the wild card, and I'm sure some people are thinking, what if things don't go well here in Canada? Right. Will that compromise performance? And it's a big question. But I guess the silver lining, too, because we do worry about Canada and Canadian industry, the 30% cap on foreign investment remains in place.
Statistics Canada is reporting that our economy shrunk in the second quarter by 1.6% year over year. So if pension funds do, in fact, ramp up investment here in Canada at a time when our economy is slumping, how safe, I guess this is ultimately a question people are worried about, how safe is our money going to be long term? We're talking pensions.
We're talking pensions, and I think that's a great question. I think it's been a question that's been had in the past. To give you an example, CPP, Canada's largest pension plan, has invested, and this is from about a year and a half ago, this report, it's probably one of the latest I could find. It suggests that Canada Pension Plan only invested 12% in Canada and 47% in the US. So our pension plans were looking to get the biggest bang for their buck. I think it's going to be a balance, and it's going to be across industry. And I think it may not, I think it's going to be a slow and steady process that's going to be under very close review.
There's lots of talk about our pension plans coming into this budget. One is this one here where they're saying they're going to force some of that money back into Canada. Why doesn't Carney lead again and bring Brookfield back and bring his investments back? That'd be a good way to show some leadership. And the other one is they're talking about, maybe certain people shouldn't, we talked about it yesterday, certain individuals that are wealthy enough shouldn't get access to their Canadian pension plan. And you and I talked about that yesterday. It's right in there. It says pension plan. It's not a tax. Then start calling it a tax if you're going to start taking away from people.
But it's like, what it smells of, this idea, is US stock markets for me, but not for thee. It's kind of like you have to be satisfied with like 0.8% growth every year or something like that, and I'll have my like 19% or whatever it is. It's like, screw you. It's obviously it's a terrible look, isn't it? The reason people go to the American market has obviously nothing to do with a fondness for the Americans or anything like that. It's because they have the most dynamic economy. They have or stock market anyways, and I would say economy too. That's why people go there, because they want a bigger pension. They want their money to grow. They want their assets to grow. And if they do it in Canadian companies, it's not gonna have the same kind of growth, obviously.
It's obvious capital is fleeing to the U.S. And Melanie Joly, when she gets up there and does all that finger pointing, she just turn to Mark Carney and ask, why did you leave? Why did you take Brookfield to the U.S.? He told us why. He said it better access to capital, and then all his investments are there. The money is leaving Canada. We need to become competitive. All the virtue signaling in the world isn't going to change that. We need to be competitive. We have to lower taxation. We have to lower regulation. We have to provide incentives. And we have to get rid of these energy crushing and resource crushing bills that are in the way and laws. And this is a mess. This is actually turning into a car wreck. This is like one of the biggest car wrecks ever in Canada. And this is Melanie Joly. She's our industry cabinet minister. She met with General Motors, the government of Ontario, uniform, to talk about Ingersoll. And she's giving them 15 days. Well, start the clock, Melanie. Let's see what happens.
I mean, it's a terrible lack of detail there, really. What did you talk about?
She's just putting out her threat there. They've been the auto manufacturers in Canada, the 6 CEOs have been telling them the problem forever. Scrap the EV mandate. Not just pause it. Pause it doesn't give certainty to capital. Pausing it makes them think, why should we invest billions of dollars in new plants if you're just going to spring it on us again? And then here's Francois-Philippe Champagne reacting as well. And then they're going to put on tariffs onto GM and Stellantis because of both of those. Stellantis, we talked about that last week, they're leaving. So it will restrict the number of vehicles Stellantis, which is Dodge, and GM and Jeep actually can sell in the country without tariffs after both companies announced plan to cut back its Canadian operations. GM's quota has been reduced by 24%. Stellantis has been slashed by 50%. And what's that going to do to Canadians? And then Ford just announced that they're going to do a massive investment in the United States to build the F-150.
Yeah, well, and right away, the Canadian Vehicle Manufacturers Association, which sort of represent those companies in Canada, came out and said it's gonna bugger up Canada. They called it an unforced error.
Let's listen in. Yeah, self-harm again. Let's listen in to Melanie Joly.
Be clear, what is happening to the auto sector is actually linked to the American tariffs. When it comes to the EV mandates, the Minister of Environment, myself, of course, with the Prime Minister, we've been working with the industries to find solutions. And by the way, right now, they've been paused. So when it comes to the workers themselves, we will be there to support them. We will make sure that Stellantis is held to account. And meanwhile, we're working with GM to bring at the Ingersoll plant a new model because obviously these workers need to be supported, and we will build One Canada strong.
Mr. Speaker, that's just more talk from the Liberals that does nothing to help people. CAMI workers in Ingersoll are worried about paying their mortgages and putting food on the tables. Right. After handing out billions in subsidies, CAMI's indefinite layoffs, they come at the cost of the Liberals' failure to negotiate protections for workers. When CAMI bleeds, so do parts suppliers, tool and die makers, truckers, diners, and other small businesses across Middlesex, London, and southwestern Ontario. So will the Prime Minister look the auto workers in the eye and explain to them why he failed to protect their jobs?
Like, I don't know why it's rocket science on the EV mandates. I just don't know why they just keep going with these EV mandates. How many failures on these EV plants do they have? It's carnage, actually, to say the word carnage behind them. Just absolute carnage.
Well, the industrial policy of this country is in a shambles, isn't it? I mean, how else can you describe it? And there's the industry minister giving it fists of fury. It's just obviously it's a disaster. Look, there's no nice way to say this. There's no kind of like CBC way of pretending that this is okay. It's not. It's just an unmitigated disaster.
They don't understand, like in the boardrooms when they're making decisions on capital investment, they say Ford, GM, Stellantis, the Toyota, Honda, they say, where do we invest in the next, because they make plans. They make 5 and 10-year capital works plans. And they don't say, oh, well, you know, in the States right now, there's no EV mandate. There's less regulation, less taxation. We don't make good EVs. Even Ford said yesterday that they're ramping up production of the F-150 hybrid, and they're curtailing production on the F-150 Lightning because they don't make money on EVs. Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody with some rocket science that's going to and then just stand there and say that the world needs to transition. I drive an EV. I love an EV. But forcing it on people, especially forcing it on an auto industry that can't make an EV profitably, good luck.
There is a rocket scientist out there that knows how to make profit off EVs.
Well, I happen to drive one of his, but he's, according to most Liberals and NDPers, he's basically next to the devil. So.
Well, or Hitler, which is the same thing, isn't it, these days?
Yeah. Are we having trouble finding the link for Poilievre's reaction to the budget? Oh, okay. Well, anyway, we don't have to. We can just talk about it. You can pull it up. Poilievre obviously reacting to Mark Carney's address to the nation there yesterday, pitching what's coming in the budget. I guess fronting the budget. It's kind of like soft selling it out there and getting the media in line. But it's been 7 months. And we don't have the words. We'll build a pipeline, and I think that's what we're going to talk about later. That's what Alberta wants to hear. Where's this pipeline?
It's quite a good point that Poilievre makes, where he refers to the doubling of non-US exports that the Liberals are aiming for, and then he asks a very sensible question: like, what are we going to export exactly? What is it going to be? We've heard a lot of talk about minerals and being an energy superpower, both conventional and green and all the rest of it. But where's the actual stuff? Like, we do need to sort of see the stuff, don't we? And as Poilievre points out, no talk of an oil pipeline, which is our biggest export today, right now, accounts for 1/3 of all Canadian exports. The world loves oil. We've got it. We've got plenty of it. We know that there's a market for it. And yet that's the thing that we're being most ambiguous about, sort of promising to invest in, or that the federal government is being the most sort of oblique about. Yeah, right. This is sort of good, solid opposition work, I would say, by Pierre.
I mean, in Mark Carney's 7 months, he hasn't even used the word oil very often, but he did use it in his address to the nation. I think he used the word once when he said that Canada, I think, has the 4th largest oil reserves. Didn't make a commitment of we're going to sell it or anything, but just recognize the fact that we have lots of oil.
Yeah. Well, I mean, surely the implication is that. But I mean, whether or not we're going to sell more, you can't ignore the fact that we sell a lot of it right now as we speak.
Yeah, but
and
he
that
also,
it provides the butter with which we,
yeah,
butter our toast. It's what pays the bills.
He also said in that interview with Bloomberg, when she had the book laying on the table there, values, and said, what happened to that, Mark Carney? Look at, I read your book. And he said, I am the same me. And in that book, he says 80% of Canada's oil needs to stay in the ground.
And it's a lot of mixed signals. And it's been from the start, really, isn't it, with our dear friend Marcus? He speaks out of both sides of his mouth a little bit. And I can kind of understand why, if I put my cynical hat on. I can see why he's doing it. Because he has two very distinct objectives. He's got to placate the Liberal Party and the kind of various hodgepodge of leftists that he needs to support him if he wants to pass legislation. But then he also, on the other hand, has these ambitions to make Canada a wealthier country and increase exports and all the rest of it. Those two things are obviously in opposition, and he's trying to figure out how to balance them.
Yeah, we do this every morning, every weekday morning, Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. And you can also find past streams on our Now Media account here. Just so you know, you like and subscribe. Apologize for that headline that started off this morning, but I don't know where that came from. But again, we apologize for that headline and welcome you to continue to watch. We got a little reaction here from Vincent Tahoe here on, Carney talking about we need to make sacrifices. And he said the young people have sacrificed enough. We're going to play a little clip here from Vincent.
When I was a teenager, and if I wanted to find a job, all you had to do was show up with a good attitude, put in a job application, said your please and thank you, and by the end of the weekend, you were able to find a job. But I was just speaking to a teenager from my riding over the summer, and he told me that he was looking for a job all summer long. His entire summer was spent looking for a job. So searching for a job was his full-time job, and he was still left empty-handed by the end of the summer. Mark Carney has never sacrificed or struggled the same way that young people have today. I was just at the University of Toronto last week, and I spoke to a room full of students. And one of them came up to me after the event and said, finding a job feels like winning the lottery. This is the result of 10 years of this Liberal government. And Mark Carney decides to double down on the very policies, the very same disastrous Trudeau-era policies that got us into this mess. My message to young people is this: it doesn't have to be this way.
There's lots of reaction in that regard. I mean, when Mark Carney said the Canadians are going to have to make more sacrifices, I think a lot of people are just saying, let's get a deal. Now that even looks further apart on this deal. And the auto sector seems to be a complete train wreck. It just seems to be getting worse and worse. It's not even a slow motion train wreck anymore. It seems to be like in fast forward. It started way back, wasn't it like 4 or 5 months ago when Honda announced that they weren't going to go ahead with that EV plant. Well, they said they were going to pause that EV plant that they had been given billions of dollars of corporate welfare for too, right? And then Northvolt closed, and I think it was Lionor, and then that bus one closed, the bus EV one, and the bus is lit on fire, and just on and on. Now, GM's Bright Drop plant closed. They said that they're not going to make it, and now Melanie Joly says they're going to make another vehicle, a different vehicle, and then even some people on CBC, Evan Solomon said Canada's going to create its own automobile. Well, nobody else has been able to do it other than Elon Musk, but apparently the CBC and a few people like Evan Solomon are going to create an automobile company. You just got to line up and pay for it. Sean Fraser finally the Justice Minister put out a new bill, and it's this bail reform bill, which everybody's been complaining about, including our mayor here in Kelowna, along with a lot of other mayors, wrote a letter. We've talked about it many times. That letter highlighted a couple of offenders that have had, like 232 cases, I think it's 222 actually, and then 32 failures to appear, and then 32 failures to comply. And this is played out in many a city, Vancouver, all over the place. And then a lot of the cities have been asking for this bail reform. So there was some, and then there was some reaction to the bail reform saying it doesn't go far enough. And then here's Sean Fraser on CBC listening to some of the critics of the bill.
Justice critic Larry Brock told this show last week that your changes won't make, and I'm quoting here, one iota of difference. He's talking mostly, the Conservatives are very focused on the principle of restraint that needs to be repealed, not changed, is their idea. He also says Supreme Court never told the Liberals that they should put that principle into law. You're sort of tweaking it a bit, but you're not getting rid of it. Why is that?
Look, just a couple of reflections in response. It's frankly unbelievable how routinely the Conservatives criticize something before they've actually read it. When it comes to the principle of restraint, what's gobsmacking about the statement that you've just read, suggesting that the court didn't tell the government to put it into law, the Supreme Court put it into the law. When the Supreme Court of Canada makes the decision, that is the law of Canada. But what's really important to understand, if you were to repeal the section of the code that has codified the principle of restraint, it doesn't go away. It's still there. If you actually want to have an impact, you can clarify how it ought to be applied. And that's what we've done with this law, saying very clearly the principle of restraint is not a get-out-of-jail-free card. It does not mandate someone's release.
But it's been interpreted that way in some cases.
I do agree that there are some cases I've heard about where it has been applied in a way that is different than what I would have intended when I first read the bill.
Right.
That's one of the reasons that I wanted to make changes to it, to clarify that it doesn't mandate release, and very specifically that a court must be satisfied they can manage the public safety risk before allowing somebody to be released back into the community.
I want to ask a bigger question about just kind of getting things done in this moment. This is the Liberals' third attempt at bail reform in, I think, 7 years. And one of the most constant complaints we hear, whether it's about housing that you've been involved in almost every sort of facet of government, is that the Trudeau Liberals were really good at making big, broad, sweeping announcements on things, less good at actually getting in and getting the work done on the ground that allowed the implementation of those big ideas to get done. What is different now, and why should people believe that this time is going to be different?
Well, I can speak about my own experience in developing this piece of legislation. One of the things that has characterized the process to arrive at the bill that we presented in the House of Commons today is an unusual and frankly refreshing level of engagement with the people who work in the system and the people who manage the system. I have been speaking with the Canadian Police.
That's good. Sean Fraser was the immigration minister, immigration out of control, housing minister, housing crisis, and now justice minister. We shall see.
But I would say, like, I almost feel absurd. It's a ridiculous position to be in, but I have to jump in front of the bullet for Sean Fraser here and say that he was in charge of all of those ministries, but really the problems came from the top, didn't they? It wasn't like he was saying, "Oh, Justin, please, we have to have 2 million immigrants right now." It's like he wasn't doing that. It was the Trudeau. It came from the top, and he just seems to get like.
But if you're the cabinet minister,
the poop bag every time, doesn't he?
if you're the cabinet minister, you do have a responsibility to Canadians, not necessarily to your party. It's him that decided. Hey, it's him that decided to go along with it, so it's his responsibility as well. Same thing as Chrystia Freeland when she tried to shirk off her responsibility and say, "Oh, I didn't agree with the taco and tinsel GST break. Oh, I didn't agree with the carbon tax. Oh, I didn't agree with this." You were the second in command. You needed to use your voice to kind of like abdicate. That is not. Then you shouldn't have been in that responsibility. Should not have accepted that responsibility. The same goes for Sean Fraser. He took a cabinet position. You see the swearing in when they swear them in, don't you? Mm-hmm. That is not blind loyalty to the leader who may or may not have the best interests of Canada at heart. And who could say that Justin Trudeau had anybody's interests at heart other than his own?
Well, he would certainly try and say that he was trying to save the world, save Canadians, and all the rest of it. But it's the principle of collective responsibility. Westminster governments, with the cabinet, they all have that in common. The collective responsibility, which is a decision made by the leader, has to be kind of, at least in public, supported by everybody. And if you don't support it, you should resign.
So
pretty much. Or if you're like really vigorously, angrily opposed to it, you should resign, go to the press or go into Parliament and say, "This is the worst thing ever, blah blah blah," and see you later. I'm going to go to the backbenches. But he didn't do that, obviously.
No, I mean, there is not supposed to be in the Westminster system a president or a king or whatever. They're supposed to be like the MPs that collectively think. Jean Chrétien said it best, right? I let my MPs talk. Trudeau didn't let them talk, and Carney doesn't sound like he's doing much of that either. The Kelowna mayor, though, says, Tom Dias says that new bail reform act is encouraging, but still more work to be done. And then Nikki Sharma also reacted to the BC's Attorney General and says that more work needs to be done. And they highlighted that one here in Kelowna, that one that was just absolutely atrocious, where the ex-partner was released on bail and then within hours allegedly ended Bailey's life.
So many. There's also that kid that was allegedly sexually assaulted by somebody that was also on bail, I believe, or, allegedly by somebody that was on bail. There's so many, you just forget, don't you? But like, you don't have to look very far into the past to find examples, and that's just Kelowna. Not really that big of a city in the grand scheme of things. It's playing out all across Canada, isn't it?
And I think we should. I was thinking about this when I put this story in this morning. This is from Holly and Blacklist. We should start running, kind of like a running story on all the cabinet messes, like all the messes in the cabinet. Because here's another one. They lost 32,000 foreign fugitives. How do you do that? A federal wanted list of foreign fugitives of 32,000, the CBSA, the Canadian Border Services Agency, disclosed yesterday at the Public Safety Committee that they don't know where they are. And then somebody, like one of the MPs put out, like, that's about the size of about half of Kamloops you're talking about. And they say they have 32,000 warrants for people that we were looking for. 32,000. That's like, like the one in Kelowna where they have that guy, he has 32 failures to appear. 32 failures to appear. And when he goes in front of the judge, and the judge releases him again, how many failures to appear before they say, we're going to hold you till your court date? How many does it take? 50? 100?
Unlimited, maybe? Infinity?
Maybe, yeah. The figure of 32...
But it's worth pointing out that these are just the ones that they know about. Yeah. These are just the ones that they know to have a list of. There's also, God knows how many that aren't on any lists. They don't know anything about them.
It's a growing list, though, the figure of 32,000 foreign fugitives. Get that, 32,000 foreign fugitives in Canada is a 14% increase year over year. A previous figure included 410 convicted criminals and 236 wanted for criminality abroad. But hey, come on in.
It's just a basic. This is when it gets to the basic kind of competence of the administration, administrators. It's being, again and again, we're being confronted with this reality that maybe our dear ruling class is not actually very capable, and that is so much scarier than anything else. That's so much scarier than all this talk about pipelines and all these arguments in Parliament. If the actual people who implement and oversee the laws of the land and try to keep the system going, if they are incompetent, what's the point of anything, really? Nothing's going to work. There's no point even trying to put new laws on the books, because the idiots that will implement it will just screw it up. That is the most despair-inducing thought you can have, I think.
And it still amazes me that this person still has a cabinet position. The public safety minister, Gary, our buddy Gary there, who was looking after his tenant, testified he did not know of the 32,000 foreign fugitives, and he couldn't give a number today. Like, what is he doing? What is our...
We've got an idea, haven't we? We've got one phone call.
Yeah, we've got that phone call, right? And then here's the guy that took away Pierre Poilievre's seat, Bruce Fanjoy. And he's talking, he's given Danielle Smith some time to talk. She was in a committee hearing. Let's listen in to Bruce Fanjoy.
Thank you, Premier Smith. I want to give you an opportunity to, and particularly how it would relate to the future economy of Alberta if we do not take action to address this changing world.
Well, no one's talking about not taking action. I think what we're talking about is whether a 2030 target is realistic or a 2050 target is realistic. Our plan is centered around a 2050 target, which is what we signed on to internationally and what most of the nations of the world have signed on to, except for China, which has said 2060, and I believe India, which has said 2070. I can tell you the cost. We almost had an experience of that in January of 2024 at 5 o'clock at night when the sun went down and there was no solar, and it was minus 30, and so we had to turn down the wind turbines because they have mechanical failure after minus 30. We had to do an emergency call out to our people to turn off their lights while they were doing dinner and homework with their kids at night to avoid having our power grid fail. When the power grid failed in Texas, Texas, 1,000 people died. So I think that's the one thing that we have to keep in mind about reliability.
Thank
He wasn't full of joy there, was he?
They didn't like that answer. Did not like that answer.
Well, he tried to be glib. He tried to be glib with a woman who's basically devoted her life to this. He was always going to get slapped down there, wasn't he? It was a poor decision that he made there.
We have some more from Danielle Smith because she announced Bill 1. Let's listen to what she has to say about Bill 1.
Legislature, our government is focused on delivering the clear mandate that Albertans gave us to stand up for this province, protect our freedoms, and chart our own path forward. That's why we are taking the next step to defend Alberta's constitutional rights through Bill 1, the International Agreements Act. Ottawa can sign international agreements with other countries, that's their right, but this legislation makes it clear that those agreements will only become enforceable in Alberta if implemented under provincial legislation. Work with us, and we'll get things done. Overstep, and Alberta will stand its ground.
One thing you can say
Throwing
about
the gauntlet down.
One thing you say about Danielle Smith, she straight talks, which is you don't get a lot of that, especially from Mark Carney. Like depending on which audience he's talking to, you get a different answer.
Different dudes for different occasions. Someone is having a go about Ronald Reagan. I mean, he's trying to say that the advert doesn't, the one that Ontario put out, the ad, doesn't represent the speech. And then you suggest that I haven't seen the speech. Obviously, I've seen the speech. It's like 5 minutes. It doesn't take it's not a long time. And, you watched it live, you say. Maybe that was the last time you watched it, because it seems like you've forgotten what's in it. He does refer to Canada, but he refers to Canada because the following year, the US and Canada signed the free trade agreement. That's what he's talking about. He's saying, I went to Canada and they seem to really like free trade, and that's great, and we're going to sign a free trade deal. That's what it's about. There's a very separate issue. Obviously, Japan. I mean, we're not going to go into economic history here, but Japan in the 1980s was guilty of lots and lots of naughty trade practices, lots of naughty economics to do with their currency, to do with overproduction, dumping, all the rest of it. And the Americans had to react. And as Ronald Reagan says, they didn't include it in the ad, but as Ronald Reagan says in that speech, I'm loath to do this. Like, with great reluctance, I'm going to do this because the Japanese have just taken the pee. That is not even close to being the same thing as what Donald Trump has done, which is tariff the whole planet and come out and say, I love tariffs. Tariffs make us rich. That's exactly the opposite to what Ronald Reagan said and believed in.
Here we go. BC First Nations make legal challenges to the LNG project, and that's we expected that. So 2 BC First Nations have sued the federal government over its decision to approve the, and I'm going to say this wrong. You help me out here. Sealism LNG facility.
Sealisems, yeah. I don't know why they choose these unpronounceable names, but yeah.
Yeah, and then.
Well, I do know why they choose them. Sorry, but I wish they didn't.
This is what's going to be the problem. Like, try to get anything done in BC. So many groups that you're going to have to please to get anything done. Like, whether it's the Liberals, the NDP, the Green Party, First Nations. Like, how many people have to be in a room before people can't afford to put food on the table, and we don't want to sell our resources to the world. And if you look at Norway, what do they have? Like $2 trillion in their a sovereign wealth fund.
It's and talk about power. That's a lot of power they have there in terms of their strength as an investor. that's a serious entity, isn't it? And you can really, if in things like trade discussions or whatever, you can throw your weight about with something like that, with a fund of that size.
Yeah, $2 trillion, absolutely. We talked about CBC, and they're in the committee hearings as well, and we talked about their bias, and like a lot of people are saying, they're basically an arm of the government. We agree with that they are basically an arm of the Liberal government, and maybe Poilievre put them there in that place because he was going to defund them. Mark Carney promised them more money, $150 million to be exact, and he gave it to them as soon as he won the election, and the executive team of the CBC gave themselves a big fat raise. Just the executive, though. Anyway, we're going to listen to this, and they talk. There's a leaked memo that came out that management says we don't put people on, we don't put conservatives on. Let's listen in, though.
In a leaked phone call that Mr. Downraj, he asked the CBC management, quote, why can't they, the CBC, get interviews with conservatives? And the CBC management replied back vaguely saying, quote, well, you know why. So I'm curious, in your estimation, why are conservatives not welcome at the CBC?
Well, I would say conservatives are quite welcome at the CBC. In fact, they are interviewed regularly.
Give me an example of the last 5 conservatives that were interviewed on the show within the last 2 weeks. Anywhere within the CBC.
I can't answer that. I can get back to you and give you more detail, but I don't watch and listen to everything we broadcast on a continuous basis. So if you would like, I will provide those numbers.
Which show offered by the CBC do you think is most fair, offers the most diverse views in terms of news coverage?
Well, all of our shows are, especially in the news area, are governed by the same journalistic standards and practices. So I would say...
Some are equally diverse?
I would say they were all striving to achieve the proper balance in terms of subject matters, interviewees, and diversity of points of view.
So there would be no bias at the CBC?
Well, I would say that that's not our policy, that's not our practice. I'm not oblivious to the fact that some people claim there is bias, but that's not how we work.
Your perception. What's your perception? You're the head of the organization. What's your perception?
My perception is that we are working very hard to try and bring accurate, factual-based news and information to Canadians every day.
So no bias at the CBC according to you?
No bias according to me.
Ouch. That's going to get played a lot, isn't it? That's going to get a lot of airtime, that one little clip.
Well, just watch any of their panels. I mean, we watch them all the time because we have to, but watch any of their panels. How many conservatives on a panel of 4? How many on there?
Well, usually as well, the conservative that they have on there will be...
Right.
I mean, not quite what you might imagine a conservative to be. It'll be some liberal who was once in the Tory party.
A Doug Ford liberal.
Yeah,
right?
Or just somebody,
or even
somebody that, or somebody that they love to have on there is that Ten Eyck fella, the one who helped Doug Ford, helped his election campaign. Like you said, I've said, as everybody with eyes can see, Doug Ford is not a conservative, not even close to a conservative. Nor is he necessarily left wing or anything. He's not much of anything, but he's certainly a liberal. Yeah. There's no question about that. The question is, what kind of liberal is he?
Yeah. Or Jean Charest, or, they might as well have on Rachel Notley representing the Conservative Party, as well as, Christy Clark.
Yeah, well, it's funny. But, I mean, I would say the TV shows, that's not the best place to look if you want to see the most flagrant examples of bias from the CBC. I would say either go on the website at the stories or listen to the radio. The radio is my personal favorite for bias because they are just absolutely so far gone. They are so out there. It cracks me up.
Well, I mean, that Travis, he's still out there saying how bad they were because he tried to get Pierre Poilievre on and they wouldn't allow it. So. He might be.
By the way, sorry. Earlier, I forgot to mention, or I didn't mention that one of those First Nations that's suing the federal government and may succeed in blocking the one of the most important pieces of infrastructure in the last 50 years or whatever in Canada is the Metlakatla Nation, which has on reserve, according to the Government of Canada's website, on reserve 94 people. 94 people. Just thought that was interesting.
We watched that terrible, terrible accident in Ontario and California, not Ontario here, but in the U.S., and it killed 3 people. We watched it yesterday on the show, and you go back and watch yesterday's show. And here's Hardeep Gruel saying that we need to really get tougher on our permitting and driver's license and that. We need to fighting delays, taking action to strengthen Ontario's trucking and road safety system. There was that expose, I think CBC did it actually. There was some good work there, where they went undercover. You could basically buy your license. And I think that, and I didn't put it in, but the Americans were just storming a trucking outfit in, I think it was the FBI raiding it. That's, it'll come out in the next few days, but raiding it, and it seems to be this network of stealing goods and all transporting goods. And it all is with a lot of foreign drivers, and there's so many. There's a video out there of the guy that killed those 3 people yesterday cooking while he's driving, like cooking with.
Was that not AI? I saw something like that. I don't know if it's the one you're talking about, but I saw one that looked like AI to me. But that's the problem, isn't it? Like, even if there is a genuine one, you could kind of flood the space with AI and then create doubt. But I've definitely seen videos, like authentic ones, of all kinds of crazy stuff going on inside of the cabins.
These things are like 50 tons, and look at what it did to those vehicles. You know what I mean? It just disintegrated those vehicles.
But this chap here, Hardeep Grewal, so he's an MPP in Ontario, and he has like a very minor job within the Ministry of Transportation in Ontario. But I'm just wondering, I mean, he looks like he's been given like a starring role in this campaign or whatever, and you might want to ask, why is that? Why have they done that? What have the political fixers behind the scenes seen in him to think we'll put him forward for this? Just thought I would expose a little bit of cynicism.
If you're watching, you go out there and search on that FBI raid there today, you're going to see something. We'll have it on Monday likely, because we do this weekdays at 9 a.m. and then it's recorded. But that story is just developing, the big raid there, and there's a lot of people implicated in that. You got to go read it yourself. Like, it's pretty damning as to what's going on. This one here from Holly Rowan. Blacklocks predicts billions in flood aid. Taxpayers face more than $1 billion in compensation for uninsured property losses due to flooding, the budget office said yesterday. Cabinet since 2018 had considered a national program to transfer costs of owners' property at risk. Flooding is projected to remain the costliest type of disaster, with projected federal costs of $1.2 billion per year on average. And we've seen quite a bit of flooding even in our little area here, right? We've had a little bit of flooding way back. That Mill Creek flooding was that about 10 years ago now. And then Grand Forks had that huge flooding when the Kettle River overflowed. And then obviously there was that flood damage that was caused by that on the Coquihalla there, with washed out all those.
Yeah, was that 2020? I think that was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Or 21? Yeah, that was. I mean, that was terrible. That isolated the BC interior almost like entirely. Yeah. Well, actually, the Lower Mainland, wasn't it? Was what ended up being completely isolated.
So they want to set up an insurance program. In high-risk areas, homeowners either get effectively free insurance subsidized by taxpayers through disaster financial assistance when provided, or are forced to manage the financial risk on their own. This market failure is what the task force is meant to address. A separate 2022 report by the Council of Canadian Academics, Building a Resilient Canada. So yeah, and it's been sitting on it. Like, again, lots of studies, not a lot of action.
But why act when, this is a very cynical thing that I'm going to say, but why act when these disasters just bolster your arguments? And there are definitely some operators in Canadian politics who, every time there's a flood or a fire or a windstorm or anything like that, they just think, all right, there's another sort of arrow for me to fire, and that's another bullet point for me to justify some new tax or something like that on gas engines or something.
CN's next fleet of subs could be built in Canada, the German company says. The Royal Canadian's next fleet of patrol subs could be built in whole or in part in Canada, according to the German company bidding for the construction contract, but not anytime soon. Production is being set up in India for other submarines being built by the firm, but stress, that's difficult. You're not ramp it up today. But hey, Canada can't build ferries. Canada can't build subs. What can Canada build? Can't build cars anymore because Melanie Joly and them have turned, with the EV mandate, have turned the automobile sector into a car wreck. And now we can't build subs. What can we build? I thought we were supposed to use all the steel and aluminum. What are subs made out of?
I think that's special steel. I was reading that's a very special kind of steel.
Plastique or what? Ugh.
But this is just, the Germans and the South Koreans are just trying to they're trying to win. Each one's trying to win the bid, aren't they? And they're just trying to say what they think.
Yeah, they're
we all want to hear.
Hey, they're just placating us. It's like, oh yeah, you know, we can help you build your industry up later, but right now, we'll do it. What if we had to do it? What if we were at war? What if we had to build our own subs? Why wouldn't we just get started? I mean, we've gone.
Yeah, and it's not like you've just said that out of nowhere. Melanie Joly said exactly that the other day. Melanie Joly, ladies and gentlemen, she said there are certain things where even if it's not necessarily economical, doesn't make commercial sense, we still need to do it here, because if we went to war, we would have to be able to provide it for ourselves. But apparently that doesn't apply to such things as ships.
Some more bad news here. ConocoPhillips lays off Canadian employees in November. I think we're going to start tracking all these layoffs. And then Air Canada is reducing some management positions. And we've seen this over and over again. AI is going to take a lot of jobs. I mean, I did an AI interview yesterday with a big deal AI guy too. He's speaking in Toronto. Wayne Evans. And he runs Truthful AI out of Berkeley. And it was a really good interview, actually, talking about where AI is at and, you know, the risks of AI and what AI looks like for jobs and all that kind of stuff, right?
From somebody that's very much on the inside of it all, which is not actually that common to hear from those people, is it? It's quite a scoop.
Yeah, I mean, you go watch that interview. He's a big brain.
He's not Canadian, he's English. Somebody's asking if he was Canadian. And also, it's lightning rod, obviously. Who else would it be? You're also saying the EV mandate is on hold, but we played the clip. And I think we're being accused of misrepresenting the truth here. The EV mandate is on hold. Do you think all the big companies that would invest in Canada, do you think they're saying, all right, it's on hold, guys. bring the case of money. We're going to invest in Canada because it's on hold.
Obviously, he wasn't listening because I said it's on hold, but it's the cloud. You're sitting in the boardroom. And you're deciding whether to put the capital here or the U.S. There's this EV mandate that's paused, on hold, and there's no EV mandate in the United States. The American automakers don't make good EVs. There's less taxation there, there's less regulation, and no cloud of an EV mandate. Where would you go?
I mean, surely you get this. Like, this is not. We're not being disingenuous. We're not being cheeky. We're not trying to pull the wool over your eyes. A company isn't going to invest based on some piece of some restriction being on hold, some regulation. That's not good enough for a company. They're not going to part with billions of dollars with that as for certainty. They need real solid reassurances.
And the facts are playing out. Capital, stat after stat, chart after chart. And again, just ask Mark Carney himself. Why did you take Brookfield headquarters to the United States? Why? The answer's right there. Why are 93% of your investments in the United States? Answer's right there. If he doesn't think Canada is good enough for his own investments or for Brookfield, why do you think GM or Ford or Stellantis do? Especially with that cloud of an EV mandate hanging over their head. You know what a cloud is? Yeah, Owain is going to speak in Canada. He's not from Canada. He is in Canada. He's going to speak in November in Canada.
It's the Geoffrey Hinton lectures.
Yes.
Geoffrey Hinton being another Englishman in AI who has relations with Canada.
We got a little bit of BC news here.
Coming to you live from the Now Media Newsroom.
Well, more mass resignations. This time 4 psychiatrists resigned from Vernon Jubilee Hospital as NDP mismanagement deepens interior health crisis. And then Gavin Dew had a statement out there that said the resignations highlight a broader collapse in public confidence. And this is, I'll read the full statement. I gave her the benefit of the doubt, but frankly, this has not been a strong start for the new interior health CEO. The people who hold our healthcare system together are walking away because they feel abandoned. This is just about wages and recruitment. It's about culture and confidence. Doctors, nurses, patients lost faith in the system and that the system will listen, fix the problems, or protect them when they speak up. And we've done quite a few interviews with quite a few of the MLAs. And we saw this in the OBGYN in Kamloops, mass resignation there as well. I believe 7 of them. The pediatrics here in Kelowna. There's problems in Prince George. And then we do ER closure after ER closure after ER closure here in the outside the Lower Mainland. Steady. There's a problem in healthcare. There's an absolute problem in healthcare in British Columbia. And these mass
it's almost
resignations.
like more than one problem, isn't it? It's many problems converging. Because this is a problem to do with like how the workers are treated, I think. Then there are so many other problems.
Just think, these mass resignations don't happen just because they're sitting around the coffee room. It's like, we should all mass resign today. These things are people percolating and just, like trying everything. We've heard from like people that don't want to speak in public, but we've heard that there is just absolute frustration with what's going on. Absolute frustration. And this is psychiatrists now. So we have OBGYNs, we have pediatricians, we have psychiatrists, we have ER closures everywhere. There's a problem.
And it seems to be specifically with interior health. Though I know Northern Health, they've got a load of problems as well, haven't they? But interior health, there's something going on there. There's something rotten in the state of Denmark.
Somebody's asking about their comments. We didn't delete anybody. We did in August. We didn't delete your comments. YouTube has some filters that maybe you said some stuff that's hit a filter. I'm not sure what your comments were, so there you go. But we didn't filter it. So we only delete people that are antagonizing or trying to incite, hatred, I don't know. Or if you just spam like crazy. There was a guy yesterday that just did 20 posts in a way. 20 posts in a row, the same thing. We just said, stop it. And we love Lightning Rod, even though he's,
He's our best mate, and he's quite antagonistic. So we do like a bit of antagonism. I think it's just if you start saying things that might get us, done by the authorities, so to speak, then we have to, I think there's a certain, responsibility on us to not be, captured by that.
Jonathan Kay, I think one of our better interviews. You and I interviewed Jonathan Kay. He's a big deal in the media world, bigger deal than us for sure. And part of the editorial staff of the National Post, and then also, he was pedigree more.
I don't think he is now.
But he's connected. He wrote Justin Trudeau's memoirs as well. He was the ghostwriter for it. But one of the interesting pieces of the conversation, we're going to play a small clip here, was what he thinks of BC politics. Let's listen in to what he has to say. This small clip from this hour-and-a-half interview with Jonathan Kay.
Federal politicians can't snap their fingers and create infrastructure. There's a lot of provincial power, and big problem is your province. Your province is politically dysfunctional. You have a completely dysfunctional conservative movement, and as a result, you have an NDP government that's kind of living in la-la land in terms of reconciliation and treaty right. I mean, you've got people set to lose their homes.
Some have already. I mean, the title's already been compromised.
Yeah, and no shade on traditional Indigenous rights, which is a thing. But the idea that people can work their whole lives, put their nest egg in a 4-bedroom house, and someone just comes and takes it away and say, sorry.
Well, it calls into question Canada, because I mean, Canada's one that awarded the property, sold the property.
But
right?
not Canada, BC. Like, don't put this on Canada, because the historical relationship with treaties and Indigenous people in BC is very different from what it is in Ontario, and so it's very difficult for a guy like Carney to say, well, we're going to build this piece of infrastructure, including through a province that is as politically dysfunctional as British Columbia is. I mean, Alberta has its own issues, but British Columbia has become a real political basket case. I mean, I'm not even going to tell you the things we say about it in Ontario. They're very rude. So
don't worry, we do too.
Yeah, and by the way, and it's also like, you go to Florida, and Florida's like 5 different countries politically. Like, you go to the Panhandle, and there's all these rednecks, and then you go to Key West, and everyone's from Park Slope, Brooklyn. Like, it's just, BC's kind of like that. Like, you go to Vancouver, and even like Kelowna's a big city now. It's the political culture in Kelowna. Like, it's very hard for this to be under the same provincial government, because the people in Vancouver must seem crazy to you at times. Like, some of the stuff that goes on there.
And they have the voting block. I mean, it's basically Vancouver decides what happens in the province, right?
Yeah, and people talk about the extremism, the urban-rural divide in the United States, and red state, sort of red counties and blue counties. There's a great book called What's the Matter with Kansas that came out, I think, 25 years ago that uses Kansas as a case study in this. That book, What's the Matter with Kansas, like sort of looking at college towns, which are super blue, and rural areas that are super red. Like, you could do the same thing about BC. It almost doesn't make sense for it to be.
There's a little like orange spot there in the lower mainland kind of thing,
That's
and the rest is blue. You can go watch that whole interview. I think we get into a part where he talks about what BC needs is a conservative figure like a Stephen Harper that can bring the center right together if we have any chance of fixing the ails of British Columbia, because he says the NDP is living in la-la land and the Conservative Party is just a dumpster fire, basically.
Well, I think he was also making kind of like a constitutional argument as well. You need to have a functional opposition, don't you? Even if you support the party in power, so even if you're an NDP supporter, you should want a functional opposition, a functional Conservative Party, because without a functional opposition, incumbents just kind of go off the rails. And that's what he was trying to say. Like, they're just in la-la land. They're just being mad because there's like nothing to stop them.
And then we're going to move into a little bit of international news here, and we don't have much here.
Coming to you live from the Now Media Newsroom.
So we're playing our intro here. We got our usual guy back. He jumps that intro in, and I wasn't used to it. We're not going to play this clip, though, but apparently there's a billionaire in the United States that coughed up $130 million to pay for the military, and he said he didn't want his name to be shown. He didn't want the recognition. That's all it says in this thing. And because right now they still have that government shutdown between the Democrats and the Republicans to do their CR bill. But there you go. Somebody coughed up $130 million, and I'm sure somebody's going to try and spin that and say he's trying to control the military.
So has that actually been deposited into the DOD's bank account then? Like, what's going on here? Has it been accepted?
Yeah. Cash money.
Well, I don't know. I don't think anything like this exists in Canada, but if you go on the CRA equivalent in England is called His Majesty's Revenue and Customs. You can go onto their website, HMRC, and there's like an option where it says give the government money. It's just like a donate button. So I don't know. I mean, maybe he did it like that.
Well, in Canada, they have what they call they have what you call the government continues to increase the donate money button, but you don't have a choice on it.
Yeah, it's not optional. It's not a button that you choose to pick. It's picked for you. Melanie Jolie's just like.
Here's a small clip here from Joe Kernan here talking about the stock market is just going crazy there. Let's listen in. Rick, the stock market has been telling us what to believe ever since Liberation Day. The stock market said this is not going to be the end of the world. Like so many, like almost unanimously, business reporters that tariffs were the end of the world. And here we are, up, what are we up, 36% since then? And also inflation numbers in the U.S. came in lower than expected this morning. So their CPI came in a little bit lower. So they talk that the Fed will cut and maybe giving some room for Canada to cut as well. Canada at 2.5. And that's coming October 29th. The Bank of Canada decision. We got a little bit from your friend, Keir Starmer. He's like a social media influencer now. He's hard selling the digital ID. Like it's just post after post after post after post. Keir is working it. He's just saying, like, he's really selling this. And then he's got another post here. I think one of these has a clip. We got this other clip here where he's sitting down with young people just like, this is going to work so great for you. You'll be just amazing. And then he's going to explain it here. He's doing these walking, talking videos. Everybody loves these, right?
Look what he's saying there, though. Look at this. Look at the justification. It's frustrating having to rummage around in a drawer looking for an old electricity bill just to open a bank account. Is it though? Is it that frustrating? Like, it's not really. It's fine.
So give up all your freedoms, and then you can have this. All right, here, let's listen in. He's selling it hard here.
Today, this is Barclays Bank, and I've been talking to customers about digital ID, and they're really enthusiastic. It'll have your basic information on it. For everything other than proving you've got a right to work, it won't be mandatory. You don't have to have it, but you can have it. You can use it for anything that requires identification, and there are lots of things. If you want to rent, for example, if you want to apply for a mortgage.
If Keir Starmer wanted to be a real guy, he should go into just an old English pub and try to sell it to some of the people at the pub, right? Because he's selling it to kids.
Rather than people who've been probably like patted down and pre-approved.
And kids, right? Like, I think one of those kids sitting there was probably like in grade 7. He's just like, okay. And an old guy that was just like,
yes, Your Majesty.
I came here for ice cream. Is there ice cream?
No, that's later. That's afterwards. Stop talking about it.
Show us, and then the walking there too, just that slow walk. Like, get somebody that can walk faster, Keir. Hey?
It is so true though, and it's funny that you mention a pub, because if you just go on good old Google or your search engine of choice and type Keir Starmer kicked out of pub. Yeah. And you'll see Keir Starmer being thrown out of a pub not so long ago. That's what happens when it's like not been choreographed. And he just walks into a pub. He gets told to leave.
So yeah, so Keir, like what I'll pick, or Ian, I don't know the pubs in England. Ian will pick the pub. You go in, and then if you get a 50%, let's do this, then you should just keep selling it. But I don't think you're getting that.
And do that for all future legislation that you propose, all future ideas. And go to a pub that I pick, see what the people in there think.
And this one is surprising, and how she gets the microphone so many times. But they just love doing it to show that the left, which many people would think the left is like the Liberals are way gone left, like left-wing lunatics. And then they let Elizabeth May talk, and they're just like, see how sane the Liberals are? Let's listen to what Elizabeth May has to say.
Tomorrow is the 80th anniversary of the creation of the United Nations. Canada has an enviable reputation, but it's from long ago, when we were leaders in fighting for human rights, leaders in peacekeeping. I'd like to ask the Honourable Minister for Foreign Affairs, if Canada is rethinking our current position, will we continue to ignore the work of the Treaty for the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, or will we again make efforts to be a country known for peacekeeping and ending the threat of nuclear war?
Wow.
Somebody should give her the phone number for Putin and Xi and Trump.
How about Kim Jong-un as well?
Yeah.
He might be a next level as well on top of that. Or Pakistan or India. Does she want to go to India and lecture the Indians about having nuclear weapons? Or Israel? Well, she would do that, I'm sure. But countries like India and Pakistan. You really want to go and tell them no more nukes, guys? Talk about sending Keir Starmer into a pub. I would like to send her into a street in India to make that argument.
I still don't know who votes for her. Like, it just blows me away. And I don't understand how this government-funded media she seems to find the microphone way more than Conservative MPs who just doesn't. Like, I mean,
Well, just look where her riding is. Saanich, Gulf Islands, BC. These are the people that Jonathan Kay was talking about in that clip that we showed. It's those exact people that vote for her.
Yeah, a lot of people saying we remove comments. We don't. YouTube, I think, likely has some filters that you get auto-removed. So I don't know. And we got our last clip of the day, last clip of the week. This is the end of our show for the week. We're back. Again, we need to pitch this one more time. We're here every morning at 9 a.m. It's about an hour and a half, depending on how it goes. Like, the story load gets longer and longer. We try to give you something that you can learn from or understand more. We definitely are a bit of an opinion type show as well. This is what we do. We're kind of like a little bit different. I mean, CBC is an opinion show. The whole thing is opinion. Like, what is CBC other than an opinion?
It's suffused with opinion and assumptions. That would be another way to refer to it. It's completely chock full of assumptions about how the world should work, and also assumptions about what Canadians think of the world. And they just sort of vomit out their biases without even realizing that they're doing it. But at least we've got the the self-respect and the honesty to say that we do chuck in a couple of opinions now and then, my lord.
And also some humor. And like, we try to, like, at least, because I know, like, sometimes it seems like, oh my God, like, it seems like the self-harm that we've done to Canada over the past 10 years, it just blows me away. And, what we've done to our youth in this nation is just, I have no idea. But we got a clip to close it off for you for the end of the week here that maybe somebody should make this call.
Yeah, listen, we fucked up. Yeah, listen, we fucked up.
So good he said it twice.
Somebody might want to make that call. Just saying.
Leinenrod, behave yourself. Behave yourself. Saying that we just talk down Canada, and that's sad because Canada's a great country. A patriot, true patriot, would be very upset about seeing their country decline, which is often what people such as ourselves are arguing. I mean, we're supposed to be happy that things are getting worse.
Accept it. Like, why would we fight for it? If we didn't give a rat's ass about it, we wouldn't fight for it. That's the thing. I have grandchildren. I'm fighting for them. You may just want to, like, stew in the pot while the water gets hotter and hotter and hotter. Yeah. What's the best thing you said about Canada today? What difference does that make? Let's make it better.
The whole show is ultimately about Canada and wishing that it was better and stronger and richer. So everything that we did everything we said was the best thing. Obviously, if we just sat here and talked about how great Canada was, what would that achieve exactly?
Our success is in our resources. I worked in the resource sector. I worked at a mine site as a controller. I worked in the forestry sector. Both of those things are not in great shape. Those are our secrets to success. That's what the world wants from us. They don't want win from us. This is what's so funny about these people that are willing to just continue to support mediocrity. Look at all the fraud, waste, and abuse. We talk about it every day. Light and Rye, you're here. Is it okay with you? Is it okay? $437 million? No, $473 million to administer this dental care program. That's not for providing benefits. That's to administer the program. $63 million for the ArriveCan app. That was supposed to be $80,000. And the government is finally suing back for $194,000. The Green Scheme, why they shut down Parliament when Trudeau was still there. Why they shut it down? Because they wouldn't release the documents. That's about $250 million, allegedly, that Stephen Guilbeault's companies took. They won't release the documents, still to this day. Our military in shambles, underfunded, underpaid, undermanned, under-equipped, and now not even fit housing. So we should just say that's great? Just like, let's keep doing it, right? What should
But
be?
even by the sort of the international, international organizations that rank things like GDP per capita, quality of life, all kinds of things like that. Even by those measurements, Canada's on a downgrade. And it's every single time something like that comes out, it's the same story.
Let's put it back to lightning rod. What can you say good about the Liberal Party that they've done in the past decade? The Trudeau Liberals. Tell us all the great accomplishments. Tell us all the great accomplishments. And lightning rod says he's got no free speech or what?
You've got the most free speech. This is you're basically on the show.
Well, you know what? Maybe you should come on one day. We'll put you in the third window there. And then you can just you can chirp whenever you want. Free weed. See, there you go. Perfect. Free weed. That's perfect. Free weed that has caused psychosis in many of our youth. Perfect. Absolutely. And now even Sir Elton John said it was the biggest mistake Canada ever made. And I would agree with that. Free weed. That's the best we could come up with. That's what Trudeau gave us. Free weed and a good pair of socks. Good one. He has no desire to be famous. Well, you seem to want to be famous. Anyway. There you go. That's our show. Thanks, Lightning Rod. See you on Monday. You come up with all the reasons why we should be so happy. And I'll talk to you about all the people that can't even put food on their table.
Sunny ways, my friends.
Sunny ways, yeah. Cheers. Bye now.
We don't just report the news. We live here too. We're your neighbors, bringing you stories that matter to all of us. No government funding, no outside influence. Kelowna Now, local, independent. News you can trust.